everyone, I'm Elena Armijo, and I'm the founder of the C-Suite Collective. This is a company I created for executive leadership coaching and wellness that supports C-suite executives, entrepreneurs, and founders. Now, more than ever, businesses are running faster and with fewer resources. Burnout, overwhelm, disconnection, and disillusionment are the new norm for teams struggling with an old paradigm. At the C-Suite Collective, we believe deeply that providing massive support for your teams through executive coaching and holistic practices will create an inclusive culture, higher levels of performance, sustainable change, and the organizational impact you desire. You can find us at the c-suitecollective.com. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Collective Corner. I'm Elena Armijo, and I'm so excited for today's episode. It's really something special. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the top 5 lessons I've learned from my mom. Yeah, we're going to look at that in our coaching tip for the month. And in honor of Mother's Day, I wanted to have a conversation with one of the most influential leaders I've ever known, my mom. She's been a labor and delivery nurse. She studied veterinarian school before becoming a nurse, a school nurse, all kinds of nursing, as you're going to hear in the episode today, and a woman of deep care and fierce strength. But most importantly, she's the one who shaped so much of who I am. This is the first time she's joining me on the podcast, and we're opening up a conversation about motherhood and leadership and legacy and those who shape us. So whether you're a mother, a daughter, or simply someone who's been held by the strength of women in your life, I hope this conversation speaks directly to your heart. I hope you enjoy the episode, and remember, something powerful resides within you. I'm here to support you in seeing it and creating it. So I wanted to share a little bit before this episode starts, the top 5 lessons I've learned from my mom. I wasn't even sure if that was the right word to use because they feel like gifts. So maybe that's actually what they are. They're the top 5 gifts that I've learned from my mother. Number 1 is resilience. We talk a lot about this in the episode and how resilience shaped her and what she saw in her own work in the world. But I learned resilience from her. This is a woman who I watched growing up work to the bone. She was exhausted and tired and worked multiple jobs and still came home and gave her love, heart, and attention to her children and her spouse, my dad. And I always remember thinking that I knew it was hard on her. I knew it was hard on her body and her mind and her soul emotionally. And somehow she got up every day and she did it again, over and over again. I've spent a lot of time thinking about what that looks like in my life and where I want to employ some of those techniques of getting up no matter what and working hard in legacy to her and honoring of her and my father both who modeled that, so well in our household. And also some of which where I didn't want to overwork or let go of things that maybe where I was pushing too much, because that's always something I saw her struggle with. And it's such a gift to be able to work through that in real time. So that's number 1, the biggest gift of resilience. The second gift is all means all. A lot of you have heard me say this phrase or speak to this in my work. A lot of my clients know that when I say that I truly believe that everybody belongs in the world, and I really believe that there is a place for every single human being, no matter what you think about them or where they're from. I got this from her. There was never a moment in my life where my mother didn't entertain, literally at our table or in our lives, anyone who came through the door, metaphorically and physically. She was really a stand that every human should receive dignity and deserves dignity and humanity and love. So I really saw her model speaking to anyone from kindness and care, no matter what the circumstances were at work or at home or in the community. So again, I saw this model from her. All means all. The third gift is I had the ability to fly. I often describe myself as having wings and feeling like an eagle that was able to soar into the world. And this was directly because of her. I can remember at times my father was very logical and very smart. And I got a lot of that from him, and very discerning. I would say he has a lot of wisdom and discernment in his decision making. And I love that about him. And my mother was always the one that would say, and do it anyway. Take that leap, go for your dreams, soar as far as you can, because that's what life is made of. And so every time I see an eagle, I think of her, and I think of the wings that she gave me. She literally said, open them up and push me off a cliff, and said, go. When I, told her that I wanted to be a crazy opera singer or do some of the other things in my life that I've, traditionally thought were crazy. And she might have too, but instead, she didn't tell me they were crazy. She said, do it anyway. The fourth is work through hard things. So there were a lot of times in my life that I saw her and my father model this in their relationship and in marriage. I think my brothers can speak to this as well, that we really had this ideal of what marriage was because of our parents. And we've learned, since then that some of that was not always what we made it mean, and that our lives don't necessarily go that way. But the thing that I took as a gift that I think, they really gave me, both my parents, but my mother in particular, is stay and work through the hard things. They modeled this every day. Work through hard conversations, work through disagreements, work through of opinions, and make sure that you do it together as a team with people, and that you don't leave people out. And don't stop at something that's hard. Go right into it. Go into the fire. I still hesitate sometimes when there are hard things on the table, but I remember her, and I always somehow get around to stepping into that fire. And the fifth gift is love is the answer. Everything can be traced back to love with my mom. There was never a moment where she wouldn't say I love you, or would hold me tight, or hold my brothers when they were feeling low or discouraged. She is the epitome of safe arms to run into and cry into when we need them. And I really got the gift of watching her love hard everywhere in the world. I'm realizing now I need to do an episode with my father, because there were so many gifts that he gave. So maybe that will be coming soon for Father's Day. But those are the gifts that I got from my mama. Oh my gosh, Mom, I'm so excited you're here. This is going to be a really special episode. I've never had any family member on yet. Haven't even had Aaron on the podcast yet. So I'm excited to be starting with you. And I wanted to start by introducing you not just as my mom, but as the woman that you've always been, like whoever you say you are. So can you tell us a little bit in your own words about who you are?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I'm a woman. I live in New Mexico, USA. That is a state in the United States.
Yep.
And I'm a wife and a mother and a grandmother. I've been a nurse for all of my adult life, and an active community member too. So I guess those are the essentials of who I am and what I do.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you are already sharing that you've spent your career in caring for people and
Yeah.
service. So first as a labor and delivery nurse,
hmm
and then as a school nurse. So do you want to tell us a little bit about what drew you to that kind of work and how you got into it?
Well, actually, I started out to be a veterinarian, and I didn't think I liked people very much, and I didn't want to work with people. I
Yeah.
liked animals better, but and that was my first degree, was as veterinary. But I decided to go back to school. Life intervened, and I became a nurse. And I had never been sick, never been in the hospital. And so after I had you, my firstborn, I thought, well, that's kind of cool, the labor and delivery role. And so that was sort of my goal when I went back to nursing school, was to become a labor and delivery nurse. But there's a path towards getting there, and you don't just go straight into the labor and delivery unit. You need to have other experiences first. So I did a lot of different things. I did med-surg nursing, and I did dialysis nursing, and I did urinary nursing, and just all different kinds of things. And then did labor and delivery for about 17 years. And then I was an office nurse for OBGYN. And because that didn't pay very well, I was also at the same time a psychiatric nurse. And then I became a school nurse. And so there's been all sorts of different things. And I retired a few years ago, but I still volunteer in the community, and I am a disaster nurse now for community
Wow.
disasters. And so that's kind of fun too. very different. But you know what? It's not really much different than being a school nurse. So I draw on all that experience whenever I do anything.
Wow. That is, thank you for letting everybody know the wide variety of nursing you've done.
Oh, that's only a small part. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I can imagine. And well, the thing that I always think of when I'm growing up is, my childhood with you is I think a lot about how you were always so busy. And part of that was so inspiring to me, is watching what it could look like to have somebody really love their work and do so many different things. And so my question for you is what did you learn about healing or serving people regarding leadership and strength through all of these varying exposures to humanity?
Well, I don't know. I don't think of myself as a leader, but I think of myself as a facilitator
Hmm.
and facilitator for other people's health and helping my coworkers to become better at their jobs as well. And so that was sort of more the focus of it all along was facilitating people. And it just happened that my corner of the world was really focused on children and families.
I love that. Well, and because, this month is Mother's Day in the US,
Yeah.
we're celebrating that. And also Nurses Week was happening
Yes.
this month in the US. I'm really present to the tie-in of children and women, and
Hmm.
that you were there for a lot of different life milestones. So not
Right.
only births, but different pieces of people's lives
Hmm.
that mothers experience. So what did it teach you about women?
Oh, well, I have just great admiration for all women. I think they are beautiful and strong. My subspecialty focus in labor and delivery was actually on families that had dead babies.
Mm.
And so I got to sort of be a part of that strength in this huge life event that happened to people. And of course, just having a baby regularly is a huge life event. But when you have a child that's passed, that's just a whole other level of experience. And so I learned so much about strength of women in those years in labor and delivery. But of course, it continued on as well because working in an OBGYN office, I really learned a lot about women in the sandwich generation who
Mm.
take care of children and their parents as well, or even grandparents, and the particular stressors on them. It's funny what comes out in the gynecologist's office. It's often not anything about your reproductive tract. It's a lot of other things that happen as well.
It's like the therapist
So,
office.
so learn that. And then working as a school nurse, all of the stressors on families and in our area, as in many areas, there are lots and lots of single mothers and or grandparents raising their children. And so, you just get to really, really see the strength that people summon up to get the job done.
Wow. Well, what did becoming a mother teach you about yourself?
Oh, gosh. Well, let's see. It taught me that I really wasn't a very patient person and I needed to develop that. And I continue to work on that to this day. I think I've improved,
You have.
but yeah, patience is tough. I thought I was patient, but boy, I had to learn that I wasn't. But it also taught me that there's an endless capacity for love. You can just keep adding kids on, and there's no limit to how many kids you can love or in what way you can love them. And love just sort of grows to encompass everybody that you're going to include. So, yeah.
Oh man, that's beautiful. Well, and love being a thread through everything that I do and what I'm doing
Mhm.
in the world, it started with you and that really seeing that and instilling that. What are some of the biggest lessons you learned in raising me? And I'm saying me specifically because we have my two brothers that are younger
Hmm.
than me, but
Right.
only girl, and we're focusing on the Mother's Day episode. So of course, if you've got anything you learned from raising them too, but in particular to raising a girl.
Well, you were a firstborn too, so that was, it's all a big experiment. But raising a girl is a lot to get rid of the expectations that were placed upon myself as a firstborn daughter. Uh, because that's the only roadmap I had was how I was raised, and I had to sort of forge a new path and figure it out. So it was just very much just figure it out as you go along. Girls are expensive. And you in particular were very expensive when we
Oh,
got to the opera phase because ball gowns ain't cheap.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
no, girls are more expensive than boys in the earlier years, and then the boys catch up later. They get expensive too, but it was just an interesting bond, and I just had to really try hard not to push you into a mini me,
Mm-hmm.
and see that didn't happen with the boys because I wasn't a boy, but I had to be careful not to do that with you. Like
That's
when
really
you
beautifully
didn't
said.
you didn't enjoy your ballet lessons, and I kind of
And
tried to
you love
force
them. You used
I
to
tried
love
to
dancing.
force you to go to ballet lessons, but that didn't work. And so we had to give that up.
We had to give that up. Oh my goodness. It's making me think of all the ways mothers and daughters always have this tension,
Hmm.
or so it seems, right? For a lot of people. And I'm really getting a lot of gratitude and appreciation for the way you dealt with ours. Like having that much awareness to just say like, "Oh, wait a minute, this might be my thing and not hers."
Yeah, and I had to watch out for that, but it got easier as I figured out that you were your own person and that it was no use trying to do that. So it was good. But yeah, and then it got hard again when you were about 15. That's a really rough age for every teenager.
Why
So,
do you think that is? That sweet spot.
well, that's the particular developmental task of separating yourself from your parents and developing who you are and as a person and being out there in the world, and it's normal, but 15 is definitely, I every parent I've ever talked to, 15 is the hardest year.
The magic age, the
It
magic
is rough.
number.
So you have to look ahead and say, I can survive this.
Wow. What's one thing you wish I had understood earlier? And maybe something you're proud I came to understand on my own.
Um, I think just that your father and I really just wish the best for you, and that we weren't trying to force you to do anything or to prohibit you from doing things or that sort of thing. We just wanted you to do better than we did,
Mm.
and maybe not have as many hurts as we have. And I've come to realize that you need those too. Everybody needs those. But we, of course, were just looking out for our kids and hoping to make everything as good as we could for you.
And did a brilliant job. Yeah,
Thank you.
through that transition of growing up, I remember thinking, the fighting against and then coming around and
Mhm.
really realizing the deep love and reverence you have for wanting me to have a different experience.
Yeah.
Were there any moments where you thought, yep, she is going to be a leader? And what were they? Like, what are some of those qualities that you saw, if you saw
Oh,
that?
well, you were always a leader, even when you were a little girl. Well, we called it bossy back then.
We still
But,
call it bossy now. Aaron definitely says bossy. We can keep
well,
rolling
there's
with
a fine
that.
line between boss and bossy, right?
Yeah,
But,
well, good.
no, you used to, organize everything and get your brothers all in line and, play every game you played, you were the leader. And and they followed you, and they enjoyed it, you know. But no, I've seen you when you were in middle school and high school and playing volleyball, and you were not the most talented volleyball player on your team. You were not really
Definitely not.
athletic, but the coaches always valued your leadership skills because you would rally your teammates and get them together and get them all fired up, and you had that quality about you, and they did value that until you could no longer progress to varsity level.
That was pretty quick. Yep.
And so they had to find another leader.
Yeah, definitely.
But
Thank you
yeah,
for
we
your
could see
skill.
it back then, and also, of course, later in your life, you took on all kinds of leadership roles, and it was always on your own. We didn't push that, you know. It just was
Yeah.
something you wanted for yourself. So, yeah.
Was there anything that scared you about that? Watching me grow into some of that?
No, not really. You know, we were a little concerned during the opera years because
Hmm.
it's only financially successful for a very small number of people.
Yeah, for
And, you
sure.
know, so the likelihood of you having a secure financial future was not good. But, you know, we wanted you to pursue that dream and ride it as far as it would go. And because we didn't want you to ever look back and regret that you didn't do that. But it
Mhm.
was a little scary.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. For
Yeah.
sure. I remember you were very, very patient. Both you and dad were very patient during that time saying
Well, it was
she'll figure out
thrilling
what she wants.
too. It was
Yeah.
thrilling to watch that and to hear all the behind the scenes stories and stuff. But still, you know, you were living in New York and maybe not always in the nicest places and
Hmm.
having three jobs at a time other than your singing.
Yeah.
And you know,
Yep.
it's hard to watch that. You of course want to see your kids secure, safe and secure. But it was great. It was a good time in your life, and I appreciated living it vicariously through you.
Oh, that was so fun. I loved when you could come and see me at any point
Oh yeah.
being there. Well, one of the things that I talk a lot about in leadership is the wisdom across generations and
Mm.
some of the work that we do generationally through families, through healing lineage. And I'm wondering, you did so much important work for, well, actually, do you have anything to say about that? Like anything about healing our lineage from like your great grandmother to your mother to you to me, and then even I'm thinking of my niece Kaylee, right? Coming up with her.
Oh, I don't know. I guess just passing along, you know, the family values and hoping that we can inspire our next generation to be their best and to do as much as they can for the world. But one of the things along those lines that really has always been an interest to me is is the role of the family and in strengthening children in
Mm-hmm.
our community,
Hmm.
and in particularly around the character of resiliency. And that has been something that's been very close to my heart, and I've been very interested in trying to maybe develop something along those lines here. New Mexico is an interesting place, and I'm not saying it's unique, but it's interesting in that we have, of course, a very large Hispanic population here, and we have a tendency of people to not move away as much as other areas. They stick around. They be part of large families and very interconnected. And parents and grandparents are still often quite involved in the lives of children and grandchildren, which is wonderful. But it's no secret that New Mexico is always either 49th or 50th when it comes to in line when you start to look at the well-being of children overall,
Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
encompasses a lot of factors. socioeconomic and educational and health. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of different parts to that. But our state does have a lot of problems with poverty and low education and low employment and substance abuse and fractured families.
Mm-hmm.
And so I am very interested in looking at the role of grandparents in particular on how they can foster resiliency in their grandchildren. And I'm not aware of any actual specific programs for that, but I
Mm-hmm.
would like to develop something that is sensitive to the Hispanic family, especially
Mm-hmm.
because that's our culture here. And where I first became interested in this was sorry it was too late for you and your brothers. I didn't learn this until like the late 90s and early 2000s. But I found out a couple of research that was out there in social work, and it was just like a light bulb came on over my head. And the first was a woman named Nan Henderson. She was a MSW social worker, and she wrote an article called Fostering Resiliency in Children and Youth, Four
Mm-hmm.
Basic Steps for Families, Educators, and Other Caring Adults. And basically, that article lined out the intrinsic qualities that kids need to have to be resilient. And this had been done by studies and figuring out why do some kids are more successful than others? Why do they bounce back from adversity? What is it that they have that does? And so they came up with all of these intrinsic qualities. But what they found out was that you aren't just born with the intrinsic qualities. You get them from external factors, which is the people around you and the environment around you. And so in order to get those qualities in our kids, which are things like service to others and life skills and sociability and an internal locus of control and all sorts of desirable qualities, you've got to have somebody in their lives who's promoting close bonds, who values and says, it promotes education, and who gives high warmth and low criticism interactions with the student, and there's a long list of these things too as well. And the perfect person to embody those external factors is a grandparent because you do all that naturally anyway. And
Yeah.
I think that there are a lot of grandparents this day who feel like they don't have much to offer their grandchild, or perhaps from a distance if they're not close to their, don't live near their grandchildren. But
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of these things that grandparents can instill in their grandchildren to help them become more resilient. And so I would like to get grandparents to be aware of this. And we have a lot of, in our town, we have a lot of grandparents who raise their grandchildren, whether their parents are dead or incarcerated or lost to substance abuse. But we also have a lot of grandparents that there's still some semblance of a family there, but perhaps the parenting isn't great. But the grandparents are still in the ordinary routine lives of these children. And that's your opportunity to make a huge difference for these children right now. And so I'm very, very interested in seeing how we can spread that word and get that out to grandparents, that even if maybe you feel like you didn't do the best job raising your own children, maybe made some mistakes like we all do, that you still have an opportunity to come in with these things that are natural responses to help your grandchildren to uh, have the resilience that they need to get through these challenging times. And it's just getting harder and harder, as we all
Yeah.
know. Our world is changing, and the things that kids are going to have to navigate, there's just, I don't even know. I don't know what it's going to end up being. But if we can give them what they need to develop those intrinsic skills, then grandparents can be a big help. And the other thing is to teach grandparents about. Have you ever heard of? You probably have heard of something called the ACEs quiz,
No, I
which
haven't.
is it's an evaluation of trauma in children's
Ah,
lives.
okay.
And back in the early 2000s, this was something we were just beginning to talk about in education and in healthcare and in psychological work is trauma informed care,
Yep.
meaning that if you understand the trauma that kids went through as a child, then you tailor whatever you're doing to them, and it doesn't have to be therapy. It can be just
Can
how
be
you
anything, even
approach them.
coaching. There's trauma informed coaches. Yeah.
So yes, so there's actually 10 things that they sort of are the standard things that happen to children, different types of neglect and abuses and things that they've lived through and witnessed in their lives, that if it happens at an early age, those things can be completely damaging to a child. But if you are aware of those things and then you can build upon them and speak toward those things, then again, you can help them to overcome that. So
Mm.
I do believe that grandparents are also in a unique space to know this about their grandchildren. Some of these things have a great stigma, and you might not even be aware that somebody went through this as a young child, but a lot of grandparents do know about it. So taking those two things and combining them together is an interest that I have, and trying to do some sort of an educational program to outreach with grandparents in our community to say, hey, you have something extremely valuable that no one else has that you can offer to your grandchild. And hopefully that could become a source of strength for them. But anyway, that's my big speech. So
That's so beautiful. I love it. And I don't know, Mom. You sound like a leader. If you're gonna build
a
this, lead it.
facilitator.
Facilitator. Yeah. Well, there are some differences there. That's for sure. I'm curious. One of the things I was thinking about as you're talking is that in in the corporate world, or in, people that are in leadership positions like
Mhm.
C-suites or emerging leaders or even entrepreneurs and founders, there's with the older generation, whatever that means, whatever generation we're in at the moment currently, right?
Yeah.
Uh, there's a fear of irrelevance that we see
Oh, yeah.
a lot in coaching. And so I was thinking about this with grandparents, and I was like, there must be some fear of being irrelevant or not having the information or questioning of themselves to be able to overcome, to give this knowledge or this wisdom in
Hmm.
the resilience category. And what would you say to those grandparents that might be struggling with that? Like, I'm not really relevant anymore and nobody's going to listen to me, or some of those
Hmm.
things you might hear.
Well, and that's the trick is, getting people to listen to you, and also when you've still got parents in the picture, you
Hmm.
can't be undercutting or undermining the parents. And so it has to
Hmm.
be done with a lot of finesse. And so again, the grandparents know their own family situation and their own children, and uh, but yes, there does come a point when you struggle with feeling irrelevant, and I've had that after I've retired from working, but I've managed to grow and make a niche for myself with the disaster nursing and that sort of thing. But I look at the older generation of our parents, who now, when we have family gatherings, they kind of sit at the table and don't enter the conversation as much. They listen, or they pretend to listen if they can't hear. And so, yeah, they're kind of not relevant anymore. And I'm sure that hurts. And I don't want to be there, but someday I probably will be. Uh, but again, if you're fostering those really close bonds with your grandchildren, they come back time and again. And I'm always amazed because I've been really lucky that I've had all three of my grandkids right here in town with me. And actually, every one of them spent the first week of their lives in my home because their mothers were sick and had to go back in the hospital. And
Mm.
so they entrusted them to me. And so we've just been very close ever since they were little. But by fostering those bonds and by trying to continue to offer advice, but again, it has to be subtle. You can't be just shoving it down anybody's throat.
Mm.
They come back time and again, and I'm really surprised now that my two oldest are in high school, and they ask me for advice all the time, and
Wow.
they'll tell me stuff, and it all of it is just it comes from them. I don't solicit it,
Sure. Yeah.
but that's because we built that relationship to begin with, and it wasn't like that with my grandparents because we were very far away and we didn't have a close relationship at all. Uh,
Mhm.
so that's one thing I would really encourage with the grandparents is even if you're far away, and it's so much easier now with things, like being able to distance uh, conference with kids and
Yes.
FaceTime or whatever,
Yeah.
you can keep up with them so much better now than you could back then. So
Oh, this is beautiful. Well, what would you say to daughters everywhere this Mother's Day? If you could say one thing, what would you say to them?
to daughters,
Yeah.
um, that you are your own person, you're your own woman, and don't try to be your mom. And if you feel like you're doomed to be your mom, then you can change that.
Oh my God.
You could be somebody different.
I love that. Well, listen, I so appreciate you're such a stand for me to be my own person. And I think I
And
think
I
that's,
also feel like one thing that I'm really sort of breaks my heart, and I see it more and more and more, is this there seems to be this trend, or at least I'm seeing it out there on social media and stuff, of people cutting off contact with their parents.
mm,
And I think that's a mistake. I really do. And yes, there are some people that are truly horrible and truly, that you need to avoid. But I believe the word toxic is completely overused. And
mhm.
I believe there's ways that you can overcome whatever the issue is. But I think that cutting off your family is a big mistake. Family is a resource that you can't buy anywhere else.
Mhm.
And yeah, it comes with its headaches and its stuff. But think really carefully before you decide you're just going to cut off your toxic parent, because they've been through a lot that you don't know, and they've known you since the before you were born, and it's just I think that's very self-involved. I don't know. I don't like that idea. But certainly there are cases where you would need to avoid contact. Mhm.
Sure. Well, and I'm thinking just from this question, like, what would you tell daughters everywhere? And you answered it so beautifully saying, like you are your own person, find your own space,
Mhm.
take up space in the world. And man, you have provided that for me in spades.
Well, and you've done it.
And
You took it
well,
and ran with it. You did it, and it's great. And I'm proud of
thanks.
you. I'm so proud of you, and I love all the compliments that I get all the time about you and your brothers. But I'm the recipient of those, and I enjoy it.
Well, and I want to say the thing that I want to say is that there are, circling, I think daughters always circle back and there are pieces of you that I love that are like you
Hmm.
that I can point to specifically, like that I got that from you. There are things as simple as my smile, to my kind heart, to my warmth and my wanting to help everyone in the world. That's all directly from you.
Yeah.
So I also just want to point out, yes, be your own person. And usually we all circle back in our 40s, like, I'm 44 now, so probably around that age where you circle back and you're really very happy to learn what you did get from your parents and your
Hmm.
mom,
Right.
but your parent in particular. Okay, so let's do the reverse, which is what would you say to mothers who are raising bold, big-hearted girls? So the ones that might be afraid raising those girls like you were raising me.
Well, you have moms, you have to let them take the leap, and they might get hurt, but that's what life experience is. And as much as we want to protect them, really, you don't want a kid that's been overprotected and can't do anything on their own and can't take any initiative. That's You're not doing your job, because your job is to make independent, productive human beings. And so you have to let them do it. You have to let them go, and it's hard. But I think that if you have other important interests in your life, and the focus isn't just on your children, it's easier to do that because you're still involved in other things besides only raising your children. That's hard if you're just doing that and then they're gone. So yeah.
Mm, all the sadness of that. Well, speaking of other things in your life, so we heard a little bit about your dream and what you want to do for yourself next, potentially. So how can we support you? If there's anybody that wants to support you in making it happen, this dream about grandparents and resilience, what can where can they reach?
I
Where
would
can they?
be appreciative of learning if there are any programs out there like that. I don't know of any. I haven't pursued this particular idea for a few years, but when I first started looking at it, I did a lot of research and I couldn't find anything out there. There was something a little bit like it in Australia, coming out of a university in Australia, but I really didn't find much in the literature. So if somebody knows of a program that already exists, that'd be great, because I'm not interested in reinventing the wheel. If there's something already out there that I could maybe just introduce in our area. And I'm not foolish enough to think there's anybody out there handing out money right now. So I'm not going to worry about that. The money will come later or
That's right.
whatever,
It
or,
always
or it
does.
won't, or it won't come or
It
whatever.
always does whenever it's
But,
needed. It does.
but
Yeah.
yeah, if somebody is aware of something that already is out there, that'd be great.
Oh, I love that. Well, Mom, thank you so much for saying yes to this conversation and to all the ones we've had for the past 44 years along
Yeah.
the way. I love, love, love our relationship. I'm so grateful for you and for everything you've taught me in the world and who you've been for me to be able to spread my wings and fly, but also hold me when I need you.
Oh yeah.
And just the brilliant light that you are in the world. It's the greatest honor to be your legacy.
Oh well, that's awfully sweet, but you make me feel silly. So, but I'm looking forward to
Oh my
seeing you
God.
soon. You'll be here later this week, and I'm excited about that.
Wow. All right. I love you very much. Thank you for being here.
Okay.
If this conversation sparks something for you, let it move through your week. Take it with you. Take on one small action to move the ball forward. And if you want to join our community of leaders who are daring to lead with courage and heart, you can find that at www.elenaarmijo.com or www.thec-suitecollective.com. I reserve a small number of complimentary 20-minute sessions for leaders who want clarity on what they need and insight into what is getting in the way. The practical next steps that create real movement and results in your leadership journey. So you can schedule a call through the link below. It's in the description. Like, subscribe. Thank you for listening, for showing up, and for doing the work of being human together.